Cool. So this is the NWC Show, episode 59. And if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Paul, and I am the creator and owner of URWE Wrestling.
Man, so tell us a little bit about it. What is it?
Basically, it's wrestling, comic books, social media in one thing. So you'll get wrestling, and the storylines will be online, so you can read backstories and things like that. And the actual product will not be TV based or something that you could. It will be comic book based. So it will all be drawn up, and you'll be able to see it online and read it like a comic book. But it'll be close to wrestling as you know, but it's comic book based.
Cool. So kind of just like a comic book series, kind of taking the wrestling, everything we know about wrestling, and putting it into a comic book series. That sounds like
pretty much
a winning formula. Plus, it reminds me of the old, I don't know if you would know this, the old WCW comic books they used to bring out, and like I remember I found a couple of them in a couple of charity shops, and I was like, I never knew about these. I was looking at them, and I was like, this is insane. But is it something along those kind of lines? Like it will have like that?
Pretty much, yeah. The thing is, it's for us. It's because all the wrestlers and everything that you see, from the storylines to the theme music, it's all exclusive to us. So they're all wrestlers that will be made by me and everybody and the whole company, and it will be just what we've got. So we're building everybody from scratch and everything from scratch. So you'll never have seen it before. It's totally different. And hopefully we'll find loads of people who are very interested in all the things put together, and we can deliver something different that people will enjoy reading, watching.
Definitely, man. It seems like two kind of niches, obviously comic book niche and wrestling niche, just coming together. And it's nothing that I could see probably similar would be like the online Twitter feds that you get. So like the wrestling Twitter feds that kind of do like promos against each other, but like you're saying, you're going to get stuff drew up and stuff like that. What kind of sparked that idea for you? What was that moment you were like, you know what, this is what I really want to follow?
I think it was my love of wrestling mixed with my love of comic books, but then I didn't always have that access to the TV aspect of it. So I was looking at it through the dirt sheets, through the websites, through things like that, through the Twitter, the Facebook and stuff like that. And I thought, well, I still know what's happening. I still get that buzz if somebody returns and stuff like that. I'm like, how can we do that so people could still get invested in it, but it's not what you currently know as wrestling? And literally just started from there. And it was, when I come up with things, it's very much what comes into my head at the time goes onto the paper, and then just work with what happens there. And we've got this huge, I mean, literally we could probably go for a year already with what we've already established. So it's just getting it out there and then seeing, and obviously the fans will be able to get involved so much more than we're going to open the whole thing. So everything from what goes on, obviously typically in the boardroom in normal wrestling, and ideas and decisions can also be made by the fans. So there will be times when we'll want certain theme music for people, but we've got 3 or 4 ideas and we're like, I don't know which one we're going to use. And we'll put it out there and we'll go, you get to decide the theme music for this person, or it could be an opponent for somebody or something like that. So we're going to put it out there and then bring the fans in a lot more with the decisions that could, and we're not going to do what WWE do. We ain't going to do no Taboo Tuesday. It's going to be against Stone Cold Steve Austin, the janitor, or somebody in the crowd. It's going to be proper decisions that you guys can make to affect, and we will tailor the storylines to how it's chosen by the fans. So hopefully that will bring more people in, because then they can get more involved in something that they want to watch and get involved in.
Yeah, man, it sounds unique, obviously, how it's kind of going to play out is just
Yeah.
it'll be a time game because you don't really know about it, but it does seem like a lot like the. I'm trying to think something to like compare it to so people can kind of get an idea. But back in like the early, like 2006-5, there was like a pretty big online community that played a game called EWR. I don't know if you remember. It was like a booker software. It was a terrible game, but people used to. There's a big online community behind it, and people used to book like their own little federations and stuff like that. And that pretty much led into obviously fantasy booking. So it just seems like you're encompassing like everything. Like, obviously you've got comic books and stuff like that, but then you've got like everything about wrestling, like the kind of fantasy booking. You've got artwork, you've got storytelling, you're getting the fans involved. It seems pretty interesting. I'm excited to see how it progresses over the next couple of years as well. I think it'll be a cool little thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And we're getting the music world involved as well. We're doing everything. We're getting we've got a little one electric mag at one electric mag on Twitter, and basically they
Well, I think we've lost the feed connection there. Give me 2 moments, guys. Get the I'll get this back up and running. So give me just 2 seconds. I'll get it up and running. Yeah, guys, it looks like we've lost the feed, so we're going to be getting Paul back in 2 seconds. I'm just waiting for him to come back in, so you can just look at my face and listen to me talk. I think it's a unique idea that the guys have got, obviously, with like comic books and wrestling coming together. I'm not a big comic book fan, so I don't really know anything about that side of culture or whatever you would call it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really unique kind of idea to kind of bring into wrestling, but kind of being like fantasy booking, but with their own kind of guys, with artwork and stuff like that as well. I think it's going to be a really cool thing to progress through, and keep stuff going like that. Obviously, I'm just waiting for Paul to come back in just now, guys. So if you can just look at my ugly face for however long you want. I'll be like 2 seconds, guys, while he's trying to get back in. We're just waiting for, obviously, using StreamYard, so we're just waiting for the wee update that tells us that it's on his way back in. We'll be like 2 seconds, guys. It won't be too long. I think we've got him back. Hi, man. I think we've got you back. I was just
Wi-Fi, man. Just Wi-Fi everything.
I was just talking shit for the past couple of minutes while I was waiting for you to come back in. But I was just describing what you're kind of doing and stuff like that. Obviously, like I say, it's unique. It's different. It's kind of just it's different. It's weird to describe because you've not really seen it before. Yeah. So
I think it's one of them that you're gonna have to see, and it's gonna once the product's out there. Because as I said, I don't know whether you caught any of the stuff about the music bit.
Yeah,
but
I got.
But yeah, it's just we're trying to get out to as many that we're getting all unsigned artists. Like there's a guy called Joshua Lloyd, who I believe you can find on Twitter at Joshua Lloyd, and he's doing our theme that's going to go on Electric Music Magazine, and he's been really cool. And he was like, "Yeah, I can do this because then it'll promote me as well as you." And that's what we're going to be doing. All the entrances are going to be unsigned artist music, so we can do what Electric Music Magazine does and promotes unsigned artists, and at the same time get good theme tunes for our wrestlers to show what they are in another way, because we know we're not going to have TV to do that, or they're not going to be there in person. So it's another way to kind of show their personality and bring the music industry in to this as well.
So, I'm going to ask questions. It's just going to sound silly sometimes as well, but all the wrestlers, they're just kind of made up just between you guys that have kind of, like, you might take bits from just different, like, characters that are in wrestling, but then they're going to have, like, real music, real, like that kind of, so they'll have like a real part to it, but then obviously it's kind of like, I don't know, a Spider-Man theme tune. Like, Spider-Man's not real, but you've got like a theme tune for it. In fact, I'm not a big comic book fan, man, so I'm going to be messing this up.
No. Everything's going to be real and genuine. Characters that are created, and we're going to. I've got all the characters and who they are, where they've been, all this sort of stuff. It's all done, and we're going to try and do it as close to real life as possible. Because obviously, if you're a wrestling fan that's on social media, and that's the only way you can access it, or as I said, like I did for so many years through dirt sheets and things like that, that's all you've got. So as far as you know, if you read WWE, AEW, don't matter where you're going, or you read ours, to you it's the same thing. It doesn't have to seem, oh well, URWE's comic book based, they ain't real people, but AEW, WWE is. It's like, no, because if you read it online, it's the same thing, and that's what we're going to try, and we're going to make it as realistic as possible, and just make sure that we get the wrestling fans in and people who've got that kind of inquisitive nature of it's really different, and just hopefully please everybody at the same time.
Man, I think it could be good. It's obviously, it's just bringing something new, fresh air, and different kind of perspective to the wrestling world that we've got. There's obviously going to be a market for it with those people that really like comic books and like fantasy, online fantasy games and stuff like that. It'll really bring like a cool little community together. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it grows. I'm not saying it's probably not going to be something that I would be catching up on all the time, but I'll definitely pop in and check out kind of stuff, just because I'm busy, and also comic books and like sitting down, unless it's something that I'm fully invested in, I'm not. It's if I've got like ADHD, I just can't sit still when I'm doing something. So if it's a podcast or something that I can listen to,
our job, isn't it? Our job as URWE Wrestling is to get you doing that. And that's what our job is. Like every wrestling company that exists in the world, their job is to get you invested so you'll keep coming back. And I believe
I could be talking out my bum, and I could be a couple of months down the road being like, this is amazing, best thing I've ever seen. So just obviously it's that new kind of, with anything new, it's the unknown. You don't really know what it's going to be, especially with this.
Our job,
it's so different than what we've got.
Yeah. And it's our job to get you looking at it. That's what the job is. But hopefully I understand as the person who's created it, because it was me from scratch. The whole thing's just, I've done it from scratch. So there was nobody else involved. It was just me that created the whole thing from scratch. But I understood that obviously every wrestling company, no matter how big or small, all started one day. The same as every business, your podcast, everybody's podcast. They all started somewhere. Last month was our start, and now we've got to do the same as everybody else to get to the same platform that some of the bigger companies are. And I think that I don't think we're necessarily going to cross paths with any of them. And we're going to, even if I think we'll have our own market. So I had a couple of questions from other people saying, well, who will your rivalries be when you go up and you get further forward with this? And I was like, there are none, because as we've seen from like AEW, WWE, yes, they people class it as a rivalry. It's not a rivalry. They're two separate companies. They're doing their own thing. They've got their own set of fans, and they'll do their own thing. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and compete eventually, but we won't we're going to try and stay away from it and just get our own network and our own set of fans to hopefully rival in terms of numbers and figures and stuff like that with these other big companies.
Definitely, man. Plus, there's a lot that could happen in the future as well. That you could reach out to, I don't know, guys that have been in wrestling before to make a guest appearance, like say for instance Sabu or Rob Van Dam or somebody, like just license the look. You draw it up, you put it in your comic, or you can do different kind of stuff like that as well, which would be fun to bring those kind of old guys that are in the business anymore back in a little. It gives them a little bit of fun, especially when you get like a bigger fan base as well, which would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it sounds like I want to try and keep it as exclusive as I can, but I understand where you're coming from because obviously we can do that because it's like you get, I don't know, let's go Hulk Hogan just because he's still the biggest name in wrestling no matter what he does or what he's still the biggest guy. If he wanted to come on tomorrow, he could go, "Oh, Paul, sort this out," and he can wrestle in what we do, and he can get people looking at it, and he can get because we can do that. We can make it so he will never he would never age in our product, and he could wrestle, and people could see him fighting people who we've got and special like other characters because we can do that. And hopefully that'll be another thing we've got because obviously we'll never have injuries unless we put them in, and you'll never have to change storylines because somebody leaves or things like that. So we can put those in if we want to, and we can make injuries to build certain storylines and do things, but we will never have that problem. So again, that's something that we've got that we're never going to have an injured wrestler that we're going to have to rejig the storyline for or anything like that. It's all going to be more controlled because we can control it because obviously I'm the person who writes the stories and I can put them in and out when I want. So, and they can age as much as they want or start off at what age they want. So that's another positive to what I'm doing because I don't need to go, oh, well, he's got another 5 years in him or he's injured, he's out now completely. So I think that's another thing that hopefully I've got in my favour when it comes to building this more control over it.
Definitely, man. It also seems like in the future you've got like animation options there as well, where you can like animate like matches, put them up on social media. But with the actual like comic and the matches that are happening, are we going to get like is a what's kind of is it the setup? If you can tell me, is it going to be like a every so for instance, it'll be like once a month or once a week? Will it be like a show set up? Then we'll get like breakdown of matches with different stuff that's happened in it. How's it going to work?
Well, as far as I know currently, it's working on the aspect that for the majority of the time, it's going to be build. So we're going to there's a thing called, basically, there's a thing called the Challenge Centre that will open on Electric Music Magazine where basically the wrestlers it's basically a social media, but for the wrestlers. So they can go back and forth and challenge people and do this and talk, say what they want to each other and things like that to build storylines. And then every day something will happen. So whether it's on social media or on the magazine or something will happen every day. But then the comic books or the actual matches and the wrestlers and what they're doing and stuff like that, that'll come out as and when, at least once a week. And then what we'll do is when it's a big event, obviously I'll draw it all in advance. It'll all be drawn way in advance, and then I'm even looking at doing commentary to go on the end of it, so we can put commentary with it as well. So I just want to make it as close to the original wrestling as possible, but as unique as possible, if that makes sense. So we're trying to put all my own takes on stuff. So there'll be things that you've never seen before, and you'll go, okay, this is happening, and this is happening, and oh, okay, this is happening. But at the same time, we're going to try and make it as real as possible, so wrestling fans that already exist can come in and have a look and see what they think, and hopefully stick with us and see us as a new alternative, but something that they can maybe attach to what they're already watching.
Yeah, man, like I say, it's a weird thing to try and describe to somebody as well, because it's not been done before. So and you can say it's like fantasy booking, you can say it's like this, like that, but nobody's really seen it before. So it's just kind of wait to see how it kind of pans out. I think it sounds cool. Like for me, like I say, it does sound cool. It's probably something I'll check out every other month. But is there going to be like a subscription fee, or will it be like Patreon and you get access? Like, is it early access or something like that, or you want to keep that under wraps just now for the launch
I
date?
mean, currently we're on Electric Music Magazine, and that's the way it's going to stay. Anything else that comes or go in the future, based on how well we're doing, but I mean, we've been on Twitter now for, I think it's about a month, maybe slightly less, and we've got about 435 followers. So I'll go with that. I'll go 435 followers. So we're going to try and build as much as we can to the 1,000 by the end of August, and then see whether we can go in and play on and go as far as we possibly can with the followers. And then, because obviously Electric Music Magazine helps, they've got about, I think it's like 13,000 nearly. So they're plugging it as well, and they a lot of their readers are coming to us because they like wrestling, and we was on a podcast yesterday. We're doing this today, and we're just trying to get the media going for it, and then going, please come and visit us. If you like us, please stay, because there's a lot coming up. I can tell you as much as I can, but there's so much coming up. It's not words. There's definitely so much coming up. It's been planned over like 5-6 years, and all the stories are already there. The the first the first bit that we're going to do, it's already there. It's already in the can. It's sorted. We know who's getting like pushed, who's not, and all that sort of stuff. And it's all done. It's just come and have a look and see where they enjoy it, and then if you enjoy it, stay with us, because there'll be so much that we can do with it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it.
Definitely, man. And kind of, where did your love of wrestling come from? What was that kind of first moment when you were like, this is my jam, these guys in pants? What was your moment you were
It
like, this is it?
was, I was 7 years old,
Cool.
and a friend of my nan's, her son watched wrestling, and he was a lot older than I was. And he came round one day and gave my mum a video. That's a VHS for people who have no idea what these things are. It was years ago. That's okay. And literally handed this tape over, and he went, your son needs to have a look at this. And I remember it was SummerSlam 92, which was obviously at Wembley Stadium. And he'd wound it to the last match, which was Bret Hart and the British Bulldog.
Yep.
And I watched it, and I remember then winding it back, watching the whole thing, and that's where it all came from. It was, as soon as I watched that, I went, okay, this is something that I need to. And then he had like literally everything from about, I don't know what, 89. And then every time a new event had come out, he'd drop it over, and I'd watch it until obviously I got like Sky or cable and watched it. But yeah, he'd bring a different one over every month, and I'd sit and watch it, and it was the love of wrestling just came from that, because it was just something different and something that I really enjoyed. And it used to literally be, I'd get home, I'd put the video in, everybody in the house would disappear, and I'd be like, no, it's wrestling time, go back. And then I'd watch it, and then that's where the love of wrestling come from.
Man, if it's something that you like, wrestling's always something that I've had a big passion for, and clearly you've been watching it for a long time, which is same as myself. I got into it just at the kind of the Attitude Era, and
Yeah,
it's just, yeah, I've done it, I've trained for it, I've been around it my whole life, and it's just something that I love. But where where was the, obviously we talked about where they bringing the both of them together, was that you were reading dirt sheets and stuff like that. But what was the point? That, were you watching wrestling, had a comic in your hand, and were like, you know what, both of these would work really well together? What was
I
that kind
think
of?
what it is, when when I come up with ideas, it's very much, I have a piece of paper and I have no idea what's going on. So it's literally just empty in my head of what comes up. So it could have been nothing to do with wrestling. It could have just been anything. So I just write it all down, and then I write the name down, and I went, I quite like that. URWE. Okay, well, what does it mean? And I just write it down, and then I'd got another idea for like a sport that I'd done ages ago, and I'd got a list of the people who were going to compete in this sport, and I just literally copied and pasted the list of names from the one to the other, and I was like, no, these are going to do this. These are going to be the people who are going to be the stars. We're going to create this. We're going to do it. And then literally over, it's probably even longer, 7, 8 years, it's literally just been go back to it, fill a bit in, go back to it, fill a bit in, about the backstories and all that, who's together, who's apart, who rivalries, how the matches are going to go. And it was literally, I'd sit there one night, I'd watch the telly, and I'd go, oh my God, there's going to be a match, and it's going to be this, and I'd write it down, and I'd go, right, this is the whole match, and I'd literally do the 20s straight off, like type it up in my head as if somebody was commentating it to me in my head, and I'd type it, and I'd just be like, okay, that's going to be the match. Got that sorted. So I've got so much of it written down, and literally it was from just an idea that just popped into my head, and that's where it all stemmed from.
And with the matches, man, are they going to be? It definitely is. That's mostly my ideas on anything I've ever came up with. Has just been like this little idea that I've started with in my work life, my personal life, whatever it is. It's a small idea that I've grew into something big. So that it's normally where the best things come from. But with the matches, is it going to be fully drawn out matches, or is you going to have somebody that's commentating through it, so you get that kind of podcast aspect to it, so people can listen to commentary of the match, or are you going to like transcribe it and put that up? So is it? Are you going to do all three? Like it's
we're going to do for a lot of the matches. It's going to be like highlights. So there'll be images of the highlights of the match, and you'll get to see them, and there will be some commentary and some script and stuff like that. But for the I will obviously for the bigger events, there'll be a more drawn out, like nearly a full comic strip done for the matches, and there'll be build up to it, and there'll be commentary and full commentary of the matches and things like that. And it's all planned out, and it's all because like the match, it's stupid, but I've got 6 kids, and they've got toys, and I'll get the toys out, and I'll go get these wrestler toys, and I'll go, right, this is the match I'm doing. How's it going to pan out? Okay. And I'll sit there, and I'll go, right, well, okay, and I'll do as we did when we were kids, and you pick up the wrestlers and you throw them against the ropes, and you do all this stuff, and that's basically what I do with them. And then I write it. Actually, I prefer this, and I'll write it, and then I'll type it up, and I'll go, right, that's that one, that's that gone, and then literally something will pop in my head where I'll go, well, that wrestler will do this with this person, or they're not going to like this person, and I'll jot that down, and literally I could be asleep, and then I'll just wake up, and I'll have a pen, and I'll go, yeah, that's going to happen. I'll stick it away. But yeah, it's just all stuff that goes onto a piece of paper, and then just obviously in the future and in the next few months, it's going to make a life of its own and just get out there.
Definitely, man. And where do you think the long-term goal for it is? By the way, did you just say you've got 6 kids? Because I've got 2, and I don't know how you could cope with 6, but you just threw that in there. That was like, what's...
Yes, I've got 6 children. And surprisingly, you haven't heard... Well, you may have heard one of them, because one of them just shouted that tea was done. And that's as much as... Because literally, as soon as we go, it's podcast time, and then they're all downstairs watching the telly, and they're like, stop talking. He's on a podcast. Stop it now. So, yeah. But now they're really good, bless them. If you've got good kids and they're doing their own stuff, and they've got their own personalities and lives, and they're doing their own stuff, then bless them. I've got a 19-month-old, and I think he's 50 already. Bless him. He's doing his own. Doing his own thing.
Back to the kind of obviously talking about the comic wrestling thing. I don't even know how, like, there's no a genre I can describe it as. I can't say it's wrestling. It is wrestling, but it's like different. So, what was your love of comics? Have you been involved in them before, or is this your kind of first reaching out again and get involved in both?
I mean, obviously, like all people that like comics, I have written different things and made my own stuff, but not like officially, and you can't see any of it. But I have dabbled in it and written my own stuff and storyboards and all that sort of stuff. Other comics has been for as long as wrestling, and it was Batman, and Batman was always, as you can clearly see via this. But yeah, Batman was always my thing, and then it was just a progression into just every comic, and just loving the way you could just sit there and open the comic and just literally you could be on a train, in bed, in a garden, anywhere you want, and you just read it and you're in that world for that particular time. And I'm hoping that's what we can do, because obviously with the media we've got, people can be on a computer at their desk, they can be on their phone, but they can be anywhere they desire. And it's like, but when you're reading our stuff and URWE wrestling's the thing you're looking at, hopefully you can transmit yourself into that. The same as when you watch other companies and you go onto the website and you see pictures from the matches and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully I can do it where I can do exactly the same thing, but obviously it's drawn. I can't take pictures of it.
Yeah,
so
man, I think
that's the end
it
goal.
sounds a little bit like if you remember the old WWF magazines when they would, like a pay-per-view would happen, and they would put like the little square boxes and a wee little this blurb of kind of what happened with a couple of pictures, which I think was really cool. But pointing out t-shirts, man, this is what got me into kind of comic kind of stuff, was the XMen stuff. So that's how far I go in, like XMen, then Terminator, Robocop, Predator. That's it. I just Judge Dredd as well, and I go away from it. Yeah, man, I think the connection might have went again. 2 seconds, guys. I'll see if I can get this back on. Yeah, it's a really cool idea, guys. While we're waiting for Paul to come back on with connection-wise, we'll just kind of shoot the shit as we normally do. 2 times during this podcast, you've got to look at my wonderful face and just listen to me talk a load of poo. So sorry guys, I'm just waiting to yeah, it's a really cool. I'm just waiting for Paul to come back in, so I'm going to rabble on. A really cool kind of concept into it. Like it's different. It brings a different aspect to wrestling, and you know it works at Disney. Who knows? We'll see where it goes, but I think it's a pretty cool aspect to wrestling, and I'm excited to see maybe the first couple of episodes, shows, see where it goes. Obviously, the world that we live in, it could be different. There we go, man. I was just rabbling on. But what I was saying was, what I was saying is, I think it could be, obviously it is a 50-50 gamble in anything that you do, but especially in the modern kind of world, it could 100% work, or it could just be like, people will be like, I don't have time to do this. But I think you're going to get a little niche group of people that like comics, like wrestling, and they're going to come together, read it, and like it says, you can build a fan base. These guys are going to get involved. It's got potential there, and I think it'll be cool to see where it goes over the next couple of years. Where do you want it to eventually get to? Do you want to see it have its own, like its own app you download, or its own game? Like there's so many avenues you can move into, but do you see more like animations and stuff like that, or do you want to keep it that comic book base? Because I know comic book guys love reading the comic books, so they're like, no, animations, no. But what would you do?
I think I just want it to go as far as it can anyway. I think that's the thing with it. I think the actual idea itself can go in so many different avenues. And I think it's going to be the opportunities we get at certain times and certain things that people want to see or not see, and I think it's going to be very much as and when it happens, the same as when I thought up the idea in the first place, and it was very much
Mhm.
straight out my head. Don't know what's coming. I think that's the thing. I think it can go as far as anything else. I mean, it helps when companies, we won't mention which one, WWE, decide to do rubbish things on TV. When that happens, then that opens the door for some fans to look elsewhere. And if we're the about it, then that's really good. But at the end of the day, it's
Definitely.
going to be, I think it's going to be a thing where we've got our market, and I think there's a lot of markets that will come our way. And I do believe that it can go like really far and just take off and just go anywhere it wants to go. And that's the idea for it. And wherever it takes us, whether it's an app, whether it's a series, whether it's whatever it is, that's what'll happen. And we've got everything prepared, and we've got, I think it's around 400 wrestlers or something already, all the characters are built, everything's, I think that's the thing. I think character building's a huge part of wrestling in general.
Mhm.
But obviously when you haven't got the person on TV or an actual person playing the character, that's where the story and the character building is everything. And that's why
My,
for that long I've been building and building and building, because it's like you need to know who that person is, because you haven't got a TV to go watch them on. And we need to the building of the character needs to be the main aspect of all the characters that we've got.
yeah, that's the one thing I was going to say. It's like that's the one of the main parts in wrestling. So obviously, wrestling it's the biggest part, the bit that everybody watches and buys into. It's how you get the audience and sell it. It's like you're doing all the other parts behind it, like the character building and stuff like that as well, which is obviously cool. I just think it'll take people time to adjust to it because they'll just be so used to being like, I can just watch wrestling. But obviously, everywhere starts somewhere, like we said at the start of this, and you just have to let it build itself organically. I really think you've got something. I think it could be cool. I'm saying it could be cool as if like I'm hating it. I'm saying it like I don't know what's going to happen with it. I can't be like, oh, this is going to be
Well,
amazing.
I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen, but it's like, for example, I mean, obviously, when it comes to the whole thing, I can tell you as much as I can, but I know obviously way more than you do and everybody else that watches it or like listens to any of the music or anything like that. I know more about what's going to happen, and I know what's coming up, and I can't say anything, which is really like, it's like if only I could just let the whole thing out, then you'd understand. Because like there's a rivalry in the actual thing that will be within the first couple of months, you'll understand it all and it'll be there. And I mean, this rivalry is mad. I mean, I've planned it out over maybe 5 or 6 years, and I'm that invested in what it is that I mostly watch AEW now, because I believe they do a better product than what WWE currently does. Whether that's just me, whether I'm on my own, I believe they build wrestlers better. They don't have to go and take like Hulk Hogan and go, mate, just dust your red and yellow off. We've got to use you again. Go and suit up and walk out. They don't have to do that. They've got Hangman Pages, your Darby Allens. They've got their people. And basically, the problem is sometimes is I've got the whole thing in my head, and I'm like, well, I know what's happening, and I've got it written down and all. And then obviously, my job is to get it out to make sure everybody understands it the way I do. Because there's, as I said, this rivalry, and I can't say anything about it, which is rubbish. But it's going to be a thing where hopefully, if I can get the story out the way I've written it down to everybody else, then it's going to be one of them where it's going to rival some of the stuff that's going on right now in wrestling, because of how it's written. And it's not written in the convention. Some of the bits art you've never seen. some of the bits of how the story comes together you will have never seen in wrestling, and I promise that. There's some bits, and I'm like, okay, I've never seen that, and I've watched years and years and years of wrestling. I've never seen it, and I'm like, okay, but can we put it in? Of course we can, because we're something a bit different, and we're gonna push them boundaries, and we're gonna go, well, here's your traditional bit of wrestling, but then here's bits that you will have never expected, and then hopefully those bits will be the ones that people will tweet about and send around their social media, and that will be the thing that pushes people to us, because they'll be like, hold on a second, they've just done that and I've never seen it before, I've never heard about it, and I want to read up on it. And then we're going to do it where obviously there's going to be a lot of backdated stuff. So if you've missed anything and you're like, oh my god, I don't know what's happening, then it's like, that's okay, we've got you covered, because every week we're going to do like a diary thing, and you can read it and know what's happening. And but it's going to be one of them things where, because we're going to push as many wrestlers as we can at one time, there's going to be like tournaments happening, and there's going to be like different, like just random matches turn up, and then obviously you're going to build towards a slightly bigger events and things like that. And we've got a lot of them sorted, and how it's going to work out, and just different. We're not going to go down the, oh well, wrestling states we have to do a battle royal, but we have to call it something different, because if you call it Royal Rumble, then you've got issues, and we've got to. That's not how it's going to work. It's very much going to be how we're going to do it. So there will be events, and you'll go, I don't know what that means, and then that's our job to go, well, actually, this is what it means, to get you invested in it. But at the end of the day, that's my job, to get you guys invested in it all, and that's what I have to do.
Yeah, man. And when is the launch date coming for it? Is it soon, or is it
The launch date for the on the magazine, which is when we're first going to be able, people are going to be able to see. We're going to do there's an interview with the first signee for the wrestling company, called, her name's Limbana Hopes, and she's a Spanish lady, very like about 6'2", very cool, very like knows her wrestling inside out, really wants to compete. And there's going to be an interview with her on the magazine, obviously going through her life and how she built to this and all this sort of stuff. And then there's going to be the launch of the challenge center, where as the wrestlers come in, they're going to be able to use it, and you're going to be able to see their comments on other wrestlers and whether they like them, they don't like them. And they're going to be tag teams formed via it, and different matches that can be set up via the challenge center. And there's going to be other little bits that you'll see throughout that will be exclusives that you'll have never seen before, that you can click on and find out more about. And then the comic book stuff will start to come in within the first couple of weeks, once we've established who we are. And and then, as I said, we've got Joshua Lloyd doing our theme song, and that's going to be on in a few days. And that's going to hopefully, because he's been very good with it. We sent like a big page full of what the company is and the main wrestlers and stuff like that. And from that, he wrote a theme song for us that literally talks about all the stuff that we're doing. And he's done a great job. And I'm just hoping now that once we get on there tomorrow, and we can start from there, and every time we get 100 followers on Twitter, so every time we reach 100 followers, we give new exclusives out. So there'll be new wrestlers introduced, and new matches that you'll hear about, or new events coming up. And that's every time we reach 100 followers. And that's what we've been doing like throughout. And obviously when we reach the 1,000, which is our first target, we're going to be putting way more stuff out there, and there's going to be more interviews, and I'm doing a piece where we talk about how it all, the same as I'm doing to you, and trying to explain it all, and just go, this is what we're doing, and all that sort of stuff, and give as much as we can on the 1,000 followers to go, but this is welcome. Because obviously if you've got a couple of followers and you go, this is everything, and then 1,000 people join after that, and they go, what did I miss? So we're trying to gradually bring people in and go, we've got time. We're gonna start for a couple of weeks and just give you little bits, and they'll still be there in a couple of weeks. So if you join, you can still go and look at them and catch up. And then we're gonna really come in, and you're gonna see you're gonna hear a lot from the wrestlers, and we're going to be doing interviews. And I know I've had a couple of magazines already ask me if I'll give them interviews with some of the wrestlers and some of the bits. So we're going to be working with a lot of people, and like yourself, and hopefully we can come back on and talk about stuff and update people, because it's going to be a thing that will gradually build up. And so, yeah, and we're just going to take it from there and just see how many people we get and what we can do to build it as high as we possibly can.
Definitely, man. I think it'll be one of those ones when it's out in the public, the beast is released, and then I can get you back on and we can actually deep dive into it a little bit more. Because obviously, you don't want, like you say, you don't want to tell everybody everything that's going to happen, because that's the point of it. But in a couple of months, get you back on, stuff's been released. We find out those rivalries, the one that you're really invested in, you've been booking it for 5 to 6 years, then I can get you back on. We can get right into the nooks and crannies of it when obviously everybody knows about it. But heading to the end of the podcast, man, there's 3 questions that we always ask. 2 that I've sent you over, and 1 that I never send anybody because I like you watching you kind of hum and haw about it. Now, you can change it how you want. You can talk about your own ones, or you can maybe say, like, in the universe that you've got coming up, the one that you're making, you would think, so like the first question is, who's your favourite wrestler? So you can say that in the idea of what you've made, or you can say it in both if you want, but it's up to you. You can say real life or in the idea of what you made.
I can go both. My favourite wrestler of all time, and it's going to be one that everybody says, is The Undertaker. The Undertaker, by far, one of the greatest ever.
You're actually the first person that's ever said The Undertaker on here, man.
By far, because if people don't think he's not athletic and stuff, the guy's 300, well, he used to be like 320, 328. It's like, that guy could go over the top rope, he could do all this stuff. And I mean, and his character, he had everything. He had the character, he had the skill, he had the mind to do it. And I think the whole thing, he was just, for me, the greatest. You can go your Bret Hart and your Shawn Michaels, and I appreciate both of those. And I met Bret Hart, and he was a really nice guy. And I was like, yeah, Bret Hart for me, in terms of technique and skill. And again, he had the mind. But The Undertaker was the whole thing. I mean, I went to a show, I think it was in like 2007 in Birmingham, and the lights went out and all the flames come up, and that was it. It was like, no, I've liked him for all these years, but seeing it live and being there, and I think he wrestled a 2.5 minute match against Jamie Noble, was completely pants. But I remember I left and I went, now I've seen him, that's it now. And I think, yeah, it's got to be The Undertaker.
Man, I think he's a great worker. So I'm interested who do you want to say is your favourite in the universe that you're making? I don't know if that's what we should call it, but
I'm gonna go with the first signee, as I said before, which was Limbana Hopes, because she's tall, she's athletic, she knows how to wrestle, and she just has that mindset to win everything. And that was the reason why she was the first person to be mentioned, because she genuinely doesn't believe that there's anybody else out there that's anywhere close to her.
Right.
And that's her. She was a gymnast. She got injured. She had to build herself back up. Found wrestling while she was sitting at home. Found wrestling, came into wrestling, and now she's here. And it's one of them where she just doesn't believe there's anybody there, but sees that the talent that we've got is something that, like, the closest to actually giving her that, like, actual challenge. So hopefully she's going to be the one that in a year's time, and yes, WWE fans, there's a woman wrestler that's being pushed. I understand. this is an issue. This has never really been done, where like an actual female wrestler is the whole company currently. But yes, this is happening. There's no problem with it. You're probably going to see more female wrestlers than you will male wrestlers. That's okay. We're gonna, if you've never seen it before, we're gonna show it, and that's gonna be one of them things. But yeah, for me, she's the wrestler that people will see in a year's time and go, that's why I look at this. That's why I want to be part of this, because she's just somebody who's totally determined and to show everybody that she's the only wrestler that's worth anything in the whole company. So, and obviously you just let her go and do what she wants to let her prove that.
Definitely, man. If there's nothing that anybody else takes from this podcast, the passion that you're saying about this is getting me interested in it. So it's cool. Like, you've flushed all these characters out. You've got them like in detail. You know where they're kind of going to go, and that's cool. So, second question, man. What's your favourite event of all time? So, what's that event that you could sit down and watch?
Oh, God. It's like asking who your favourite child is, which I'm not going to mention because they're literally behind this door. Hold on. I mean, it's some of it's because of the whole event itself. Some of it's because of the match, like one match, or I mean, Money in the Bank 2011, due to the whole John Cena CM Punk thing. Any WrestleMania, maybe 25, because obviously being an Undertaker fan, him and Shawn Michaels was everything. I think when I was a kid, it would have been SummerSlam 94, which was
comes
for
into
me,
the next question where SummerSlam 94. So the next question is, so I'll tell you my answer, and that's why SummerSlam 94 comes into it after I've asked the question. But if you can add yourself to, or replace anybody in any match in history, what would it be? So mine would be the blue steel cage, Brett versus Owen. I would replace Owen only if I could wrestle as good as Owen, just to be in the ring with Brett. And that's one of my favourite, if no my favourite, steel cage match of all time. What would your one be? What would yours be? And you can say this in your universe as well. You can put yourself against somebody with a stipulation, whatever you want to do.
Oh, well, I'll try and fit two in as quick as I can. The actual wrestling that we've seen on TV, I would fit myself into the Hell in a Cell King of the Ring 98. And I'd probably obviously replace The Undertaker rather than Mick Foley, because I ain't going off no cage. That's not happening.
That's the second time we've heard this answer on the podcast as well. So
I'm not experiencing the fall.
You just want to throw them off and see it.
I ain't getting tacked. I ain't getting nothing. But it's one of them matches where, was it on an event that they probably thought, oh, in years to come, they're going to remember this. But that match was just amazing. Yeah, Mick Foley was an idiot. He shouldn't have thrown himself off it. That was like ridiculous. And he could have died, bless him. But he did it, and everybody remembers it. And he probably doesn't. He's the only person that doesn't remember it.
Man,
the majority of the match, he's the only person that, unless he watches it on telly, he ain't got a clue.
The other one that you always say is that sorry, man, that was my fault that time there. For some, I think my phone, what I'm using to recording is on my phone, and I think it just got too warm. But the other one that he always says is when China hit the door off his head, the blue steel cage against Triple H, and he's like, never remember it, man. But I think that is one of the best Hell in the Cell matches, so early in it, obviously. But Taker, Triple H as well, mention him, have been involved in so many good Hell in a Cell, which is insane to think it's always between these two guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's weird because like the one that I can remember again is the Triple H Undertaker Hell in a Cell, the one with Shawn Michaels as the ref.
Yeah.
And that was brilliant. It was like two wrestlers who encompass Hell in a Cell between them, and even Shawn Michaels, probably most of the Hell in the Cells up till that point had got one of the three of them in. It was just a great match. Shawn did his kick. Pedigree, we thought actually it was over, and it was just a great match. And I think, yeah, Hell in a Cell's always been one of them that, a bit like some of the stuff we're going to be doing, I hope that things like that will, some of the stuff that we're going to do is going to stick like that, and it's going to be like, we're going to do something different, and we're going to bring it in and see what happens. Because obviously, when you bring stuff like Hell in a Cell in, you don't know whether it's going to work.
Yeah.
Are the fans going to enjoy it? Is it going to be a thing? So that's really what. But yeah, if it was in the URWE, I'm not going to say universe because I'm not jumping on the now. I'll make a name up at some point.
The Galaxy, just slightly change it.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not going universe on any stretch. If it's on the URWE wrestling front, I'm trying to think. So I don't want to go into gender matches. This is not
right. You know what we'll do? We'll leave that one there because let's keep it for the next time you come on, because then we can actually.
Well, yeah, of course.
We've got the characters flushed out more the next time you come. Then we can actually talk about what we would. I could get people. You can tell me a little bit more about it, obviously, instead of from you don't want to let it out. So when can people first go right? These characters, the first interview, the first. What do you think over the next 2-3 weeks they'll get like the grasp, the kind of grasp of what's happening?
We'll have from tomorrow. It'll be on the Electric Music Magazine, so you can go on Twitter at @OneElectricMag, and it'll be on there. You can go on official URWE on Twitter, and you can see bits from us. But yes, the first interview with Limbana Hopes and a lot of the new bits that we're going to be introducing will be there within the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then you'll start to see the real rivalry starting and storylines building. And then hopefully from that, we can get the interest and get people involved and just see where it goes from there. And then the next time I come on, will obviously be some sort of global sensation that you can just talk about.
Man, that's it. I would rather wait before we talk more about the characters till obviously they're out in the world. Then we can kind of get right, this person, dream match, whatever. Yeah. I'm excited to see where it goes, obviously over the next couple of months, then we can get you back on. But I've got all the links in the description below. Tag me in the stuff that's coming out in the next couple of days and stuff like that. I'll get it shared as well. And is there any signing off thing you want to say to people apart from come and check me out?
Just if you've got an open mind to wrestling or you're not happy with the wrestling that you're watching now, then please come and try something different, because we are wrestling in its, in a simple form, but then outside of that, we've got comic books, we've got social media, fan interaction, beyond anything that you've ever seen in any company. You can get involved in so much, and there's going to be storylines constantly happening and changing, and just join us and see what we do.
Come on, everybody who's watches it over the next couple of days, definitely go check it out. The links and all the kind of stuff will be on my Twitter. I would have shared it. There's stuff in the description below as well. And what I'll do is I'll end the stream here and I'll tell you the kind of aftercare information after it.